Hi everybody, my name is Andrew Lowen and I am the designer of Deliverance, the board game. I'm going live for the first time ever and just introducing myself to the people who care about this game. So excuse me, this is kind of like my first time, so I'm expecting to probably screw up a lot. I'm not sure about the sound quality, but I hope you guys can hear me okay. So I'm going to get into the the group here so that I can see comments and that sort of thing. Anyway, by the way, my 6-year-old convinced us that it was a good idea to decorate early for Christmas this year, so I hope you don't mind the Christmassy looking decorations in the background. Here we go. Gosh, I wanted to go live to number one introduce myself, but and I thought it was important that I would kind of go over and just talk about, kind of just share my heart with you guys. I wanted to I just feel like Facebook Live is going to be a lot better than a blog. And I kind of prepped some notes to go over a little bit. I wanted to share with you guys and be structured and not just wing it all. So this particular video, I've got my notes over here. This particular video is kind of about ground rules for the way that I operate, just as a businessman, if you will. The way that I would like the Deliverance fans to operate, and then also I wanted to talk about why the game needs to exist, and kind of some of my philosophy of design for Deliverance. So what the video is not about, I'm not shooting the breeze with you guys. I have very specific things I want to go over. So we'll just jump right into it. So the purpose of Deliverance. Deliverance is really a parable to a dull-hearted world. That's kind of the way I look at it. Jesus told parables so that he could kind of get through I call it the crocodile brain of just the common person. And I feel like board games are a great way to deliver a message or to start raising points about things in a non-offensive, casual way. And kind of the end result is that Christians kind of get the symbolism of the game, and then non-Christians, there's nothing in the game that offends them necessarily, but they still have fun without really feeling preached at, because the way that we did it. Really, the game teaches Christians how to wage spiritual warfare, and it should, it'll get people around the table talking about the right things, and it's kind of a ministry in some ways to get right into the home of people, hopefully all around the world, and get them talking about what matters. So one other thing is that I have heard so much about banjos and squealing like a pig and ill-fated river rafting trips, and the word deliverance is a really important word for Christians. I know if you guys go to church and you hear the word deliverance from your pastor's mouth or your priest's mouth, I'm sure that you don't think about banjos and all that. But in this world, because it is so secular, I hear so much about about all that stuff, banjos, and Deliverance was a movie that came out in 1979 that was that really has very little relation to it's title. We'll put it that way. All about people getting trapped by hicks that it's just an awful movie. So anyway, moving on. So why am I creating this board game? So Deliverance, I stopped playing video games in October of 2015. My family's growing, and I have 4 kids now, and it was just difficult to be the best at the game I was playing. I've put, probably 25,000 hours into World of Warcraft, League of Legends, Diablo, you name it, I've played it. I played years of Magic the Gathering and Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And other card games, and then of course board games. But I needed something epic to fit the void of that video games gave me, where I got to explore this epic fantasy world. I wanted an epic fantasy experience that was grown up, that didn't, that wasn't, that really wasn't about playing soft, that dealt with, or that wouldn't make a Christian feel like they were compromising their faith. In particular, my wife, she is, so I'm a little bit, I guess, more okay with compromise than my wife is, at least at the time, so we couldn't play Gloomhaven, we couldn't play Seventh Continent, we couldn't play other very popular games because they glorify magic, or they have demons, and that's a good thing, and then angels are a bad thing, or just a lot of different things, so no Dungeons and Dragons and whatnot. So I just simply wanted an awesome high fantasy game that could take me to a different world without having to worry about compromise. I wanted that epic swords and sorcery feel, without having to try to rationalize to someone why it's okay, rationalize to a Christian why it should be okay to play. So the game philosophically needs to be doctrinally correct, but also high fantasy. I didn't want to do I loved Constantine the movie, but it was very, Gabriel ends up being a bad guy and an angel, and then Satan is kind of a character that you like to some degree, or Supernatural, where Michael's good and Gabriel's bad and the Satan's not all that bad. That's just kind of Hollywood. I guess I just call it the Hollywood effect. It just kind of takes what was written in the Bible and waters it down. But I feel like the Bible, there's such a massive amount of story to be explored in the Bible, but in games, rightly so, people are afraid to touch the Bible because, number one, Christians get mad if you do it wrong. So there are a lot of arguments among Christians about various things, so it's easy to get things wrong and just be buried by Christians. Also, a world religion doesn't really make for a very exciting game. I mean, it's kind of an educational game oftentimes, or a game that is like a slightly worse retheme version of an existing game. The existing game is probably better in its original theme than the rethemed, Bible Monopoly or whatever you have. We generally we play games to take a break from reality and go to this fantasy world and take a load off. We don't do it in order to dive into religious and political issues. That's exactly what we don't do. So it brings me to that. For that reason, Deliverance is a fantasy game. So I do stick to clear biblical doctrine, and I don't go. I'm not going into the books of the Apocrypha or writings of Thomas Aquinas or anything like that. There's a lot of story to be. I could, but I wanted to stick specifically to the Bible because there's plenty of meat there, and I just wanted everybody to agree. Anyway. Where the Bible is vague or silent, I take creative license, a lot of creative license. I don't have any fear of being wrong by doing that, because in the end, it's just fantasy. I mean, a lot of people will talk, in fact, I've had other people tell me that my understanding of angels is all wrong, and they don't have wings, or they do, or they're only men, or whatever it is. And I say to them, maybe, it doesn't matter. The game's a fantasy. I'm making some of this stuff up. The things that don't matter from a doctrine standpoint are things that I just kind of have freedom to play with. So the spiritual world is really interesting. Can you imagine the Battle of Jericho? So Joshua is the leader of this army. He talks to the commander of heaven's army, and that's the last bit you hear about anything in the spiritual realm. However, over the next 7 days, they walk around this city completely silent once a day, And then on the seventh day, they walk around 7 times completely silent and blow a trumpet and shout, and walls fall down and they take this city by force. It's kind of an epic, maybe an epic war story, but what really fascinates me is what happened in the spiritual realm that we just didn't know about. Another great example from the Bible would be the Prince of Persia. The Prince of Persia is a demon that actually withstood the angel Gabriel for 3 weeks, 21 days, and wouldn't let him pass to deliver a really important message. What fascinates me about that is that, if God is all-powerful, and he is, why wasn't Gabriel able to say, hey, I have this scroll that says I can pass. You have to let me by. Why was this demon able to withstand him for 21 days? It shows that there's a real battle that angels actually have to fight, and that kind of thing. So it's just very interesting. So I think the game needs to exist. I mean, there are 0 board games like it in the world, 0 that are really themed this way. And it's going to bring the Bible alive for people. I know it has for me. So, okay, so real quick, I wanted to go into ground rules. I do plan on getting into some specific mechanics, by the way. So I hope that you guys enjoy. I will be talking about the game, about some specific mechanics and how the game plays and that kind of thing. So, but first, for my group, I have a group called Deliverance Game Insiders, and this is where I show most of everything, all of the art, how to play, that kind of thing, will all be there first. So find that group if you want. But so just talking to my group right now. So as a group, we need to be temperate. There are going to be a lot of people that take really strong sides on non-cornerstone issues. I've been told that I'm a wicked sinner that's going to hell if I don't repent many times already, just simply because people are very passionate about their opinions. So my request is that we don't fiercely divide over things that are not specifically like core doctrine to the Christian faith. Because we're going to deal with all sorts of stuff that's not core to the Christian faith. When I talk about core doctrine, I mean, the resurrection of Jesus or salvation by grace through faith. Those are important things. If somebody preaches a different gospel that we should divide over. But things like we're angels, women. The truth is we don't know because the Bible doesn't say. But I have women in the game that are angels because 50% of our population should probably be represented in an awesome game like this. So let's not try to argue people into submission. Just kind of state the truth and let people think what they're going to think. So just don't feed the trolls. You guys in general, just adapt the philosophy I've adapted. Tell people it's a fantasy after all. It's not a huge deal. So there's a Bible verse that kind of inspired me to talk about that, which is Titus 2:7-8. It talks about it. It says this: in all things, showing yourself to be a pattern of good works. In doctrine, showing integrity, reverence, incorruptibility, and sound speech that cannot be condemned, that one who is an opponent may be ashamed, having nothing evil to say of you. So really, be sober-minded, act in love, and be patient with all the noobs. Okay, so on to what I think is probably the core of the video. I know I've done a lot of talking, so thanks for staying with me thus far. I want to talk about the mechanics of the game and how it came to be. So Deliverance started probably 2.5 years ago as an idea of, just wanting... I wondered what the spiritual world was like, and I wanted to turn that into a board game. So I guess in the end, Deliverance is a product of what I kind of see the spiritual world to be. Just a very high fantasy version of what I actually see is going on in the spiritual realm. So every mechanic in Deliverance is tied to the way I believe, or rather an interpretation of how the spiritual realm is... maybe a version of how it actually is. I'll just put it that way. So I started theme first. I thought about, okay, we have angels and demons. I wanted angels to be playable. I did not want demons to be playable. I wanted them to be controlled by the game. The angels have there's a reason they're in this town, and I had to figure out why. It's generally because of people. So people are the prize in the middle of the war between heaven and hell. The war's already won, but you have Satan and his army that's running around causing all sorts of havoc, trying to, in essence, bring people to hell because they hate God. And then you have angels that are kind of God's ministers and warriors that are trying to help people along so that they kind of, maybe in the end people go to heaven. So there's this epic battle in the middle. So the angels, real quick. Actually, before I actually show you an angel card, I'll share one or two more things. So number one, about the game, really, really core to the game. It's a dungeon crawler, meaning that it's a pretty heavy hobby game. It's not some casual, light, family-friendly game. I figure there are enough of those out in the world for Christians, and there are 0 epic heavy games. So the game has a lot of text, but it's going to explain itself. So the rule book may end up being, let's just say, a 20-page rule book with all the examples and everything like that. The goal for the game is that you should read through that rule book once, and then every single card, every single piece of equipment, once some really basic things are understood, the cards and characters and demons and everything should kind of explain what you should do on the actual cards themselves. So you're not going to need to reference the rulebook a million times. The reason that I kind of explain that is because I want to show you a few actual cards. So we'll go with Azrael, the Angel of Death. The Angel of Death, I don't know if you guys can see this or not. It's kind of bright. Hang on, let me darken this thing a little bit. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but this is the Angel of Death. This is an actual character card from the game. And every single character, so you'll see you've got your awesome picture, you've got your stats on the edges, right here and here. I can explain those in a little bit. You have a passive ability that is going to kind of explain... oh, thanks, cool art. Thanks, man. You have a passive ability. So these are all asymmetric characters. Your passive ability is going to be very unique to your character only. It makes characters immediately feel very different from one another, but every single unique ability is different. Also, I wanted to make the game more accessible to family or to people that are very kind of newer to playing games. I know this game is going to be pretty heavy, so one of you guys might be a good gamer, and then you might want to play with somebody who's maybe only experienced Monopoly and Sorry and Chutes and Ladders or whatever. So there's a simpler side, which has a passive and then fewer abilities, fewer things to keep track of. The stats are also balanced for this side in particular. It's going to be easier to play the game this way, but as you'll see, there are going to be multiple difficulties, and if you want to have a hope and a prayer of actually winning in the higher difficulties, you need to play the complex side. So Azrael is all about what is called Wither. So Monopoly is awesome. We can't be friends. No, I'm kidding. But Azrael's all about Wither, which is kind of a poison mechanic. Every round, anything that has Wither on it, people take 1 damage per stack of Wither, per infection, if you will. So he's all about plague and pestilence and that kind of thing. So his abilities are Viral Plague, Swarm of Locusts, Venomous Sickle, Fever Break, and Outbreak. So he's a lot of fun. I'll show you one more. I know you guys can probably pause to see, but Michael the Archangel, he's a pretty bad dude. Of course, he's good, but he's bad in a good way, I guess. So his character is all about gaining a resource called Courage. Courage is kind of like your energy bar. It's a resource that you use to unleash very powerful abilities. And so this character, anytime he actually takes damage in combat, he gains 1 courage, which is this resource. His abilities are all about gaining and dealing courage. So he actually has 1 ability that allows him to run across the field and absorb damage for somebody, which of course gives him courage. And he's able to unleash a really epic strike on a demon at any time, as long as he has max courage. He's able to just, it doesn't have to be your turn or anything. You can use a very strong attack. So sometimes games turn into heal Michael. Just heal Michael, let him kill everything. But every single game, your strategy will probably be different. So there really are multiple ways to build every character. In fact, because it's very easy, I want to show Azrael again. I'll just show the simple side. So you have your stats right here. So this is the amount of damage that this ability deals. Swarm of Locusts deals damage equal to your Wisdom, the blue stat. And then this other ability, Viral Plague, deals damage equal to the green crystal, which is your Dexterity, a different stat. So you have items in the game that will act as like permanent increases to your stats. That's how you get stronger and all that. You equip new items and more items. So that's kind of the way that works. So you may be presented with, let's say, a set of items that have, let's just start with this one here because it has 3 crystals on it. The Carpenter's Gloves is a glove slot. There are 5 slots to items. You have this Strength, Dexterity, and Wisdom crystals that give you a permanent increase to each of these stats. It also has, this particular item as a penalty. You actually lose a health if you do not pray in the round. We'll go over prayer in a bit, but it's a really core mechanic. I think one of the coolest parts of the game. So that's kind of the way that works. You'll draft items, and they will be different. So there's wisdom item, another wisdom item, a strength item. So you may not be able to build exactly how you want. You may have to roll with the punches. Thanks, Thomas, by the way. Thanks for sticking around. So that's kind of the way that works. So there are, I guess I could explain demons too, but let's just go over how to actually play the game. So there are 3 phases to the game. It's kind of a tactical combat. So you'll play on a board. It looks kind of like that. In fact, this is one of the boards at the moment. There will be kind of an above the town side of the board, and then on the other side, which the art is not done yet, for the other side, will be an on the street, like, very close up version of, what's on this tile. So we may actually be inside that house, as an example. So it's a very tactical combat. Your character is going to be on a space, and demons are going to be on spaces, and you're going to have to deal with multiple objectives at the same time. So the first phase of the game, every battle has 3 phases, and you just repeat them over and over until you win. You actually, maybe I better go over how to win. You have a demonic prince that you have to kill, and depending on the game mode, that might be in the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th battle. No problem, Laura. So in the scenario-based mode, we have a campaign that you'll be able to play for 30 minutes to an hour. It'll take depending on the number of players. So you will fight 2 very scripted encounters for each campaign, and there will be about 30 different campaigns, maybe more. Depending on how we go we're still in development. So there will be what I call a skirmish, which is 3 battles. So you're going to have 2 battles against demons, and then your 3rd battle is going to be against the demonic prince, which is a very special boss monster by himself. In the full game, you're going to have 4 battles. The first 3 are against demons. The 3rd one actually has an extra lieutenant, which is a special boss monster, and then the 4th battle is going to be full of demons, and you're going to also have a demonic prince. So the object of the game is destroy all enemies in every battle. You have to kill the prince in the in the final battle in order to win the game. So that's kind of a little bit about that. So anyway, in each battle you have 3 phases. The first phase is called the angel phase. You get, you as your character, every character gets 2 actions. You can attack, pray, use an ability, play a card from your hand, which would be these awesome prayer cards, or move. So there are 5 possibilities. Certain of these actions give you that resource for courage to use your epic abilities and that sort of thing. So each player takes 2 actions, and then you have these darkness cards. Depending on how many players are in the game, you've got 2 of these bad boys that are dealt face down. Once the angel phase is over, the darkness cards, these things actually, any that remain in play, flip up, and you get to deal with these now. I guess both of these are called strongholds. They will remain in the game forever until you deal with them. You need to cast them down using prayer actions. They're going to cripple you or boost your opponents, the demons. So angel worship is kind of a fun one. Just +1 damage to demons get +1 damage. I'm not sure. It looks like things are backwards when I don't know if I am doing this right, but I'm looking at this and it's looking like it's backwards. So sorry about that. So anyway, that's these things get flipped up. Then each demon gets 1 action. And all you're going to do is roll a little 6-sided dice for the demons. And then the third phase is called the affliction phase. You're going to have these little characters on the map called believers. They're going to be moving around and doing things. And these things, which are affliction strongholds, that's when they activate. So this one's called jealousy. And roll a dice. On 4+, you're going to deal 3 damage to the player with the highest current health. Who can stand against jealousy? So anyway, once that third phase, the affliction phase, is completed, just start with another angel phase until either all of the demons are dead or 1 player is defeated. So that's kind of the way that it works. The game in general is going to take maybe with 2 players. My wife and I play all the time. With 2 players, you're going to play probably about an hour to an hour and a half. 4 players, you're going to play between 1 and 2 hours, just depending for a full game. Like I said, the scenarios and the skirmish version is going to take less time. So okay, so I'm sure maybe you guys have some questions, but I'll just move on. There's a ton of stuff that I would love to explain, and I will over the next month, which is what I'm going to talk about, what you can expect next. So December 9th is a date that I have placed on my... so I have a graphic artist, Adam Glass. Adam, you're awesome. And then my concept artist, Dan Maynard, he's awesome too. He's working on all of the awesome art. So all of the epic angels that you see, Dan Maynard did all of those. And then all of the layout and everything else, Adam Glass is on top of that. So we have a small team, including my wife, Christy. We've got 4 of us. So that's kind of our little team. So December 9th is the date that I've asked for my team to make everything ready. I want to reveal Deliverance to the world on December 9th. Until then, I'm going to be kind of muted. The only place you're going to really find out about anything in Deliverance is in the private Facebook group, Deliverance Game Insiders. Every once in a while I'll be posting things here, like Facebook Live videos are much better. I agree, Adam Glass is the dude. So he's really, by the way, Adam really has been super invaluable to the project. I mean, I think we started working together over a year ago now on all sorts of different projects, but for Deliverance. And so he does keep me sane. I probably help drive him insane. So anyway, the website's homepage is going to be overhauled, and it'll explain how to play, and we're going to show a teaser video. There's something really special that I'm working on. you guys may know a little bit about it because of the art that I've been showcasing now and again. I call it storyboard art. We're going to have it's like a 70-second video that we're developing to really set the stage for Deliverance. And when that's done, I'm going to show that to the world and then try to just, start the hype train and get it rolling as much as I can until Kickstarter, and there you go. So up until then, you'll be able to get an inside look at the components that we're putting together for both the art and the video, and then how to actually play the game. So also, eventually I'm going to need blind playtesters. We're at the point where we're just trying to finish up. In fact, this week I hope to wrap up the prototype copy, the final prototype. We have a bunch of different components and whatnot, but the final prototype I hope to wrap up this week and get a copy printed and sent to me. If it's good, then I will, and we're working on the rulebook too. So the rulebook's actually done. It just needs examples of the different sections. So I will be sending it out to blind playtesters. If you would like to be a blind playtester, send me a private message. I would need probably 8 to 10. I would hope for 8 to 10 games played in about a month's time, along with feedback and that kind of thing. And then the game is going to Kickstarter when it's ready. That means, like Blizzard would always say soon, and then put a little trademark right next to soon, meaning that it could really be a year or whatever. Well, it looks like between March through May of next year is when we're going to actually be ready to launch on Kickstarter. So I say this every once in a while, but I might partner with a publisher and have them do it, or I might actually be the publisher myself. And I'm prepared to do both, but we'll see. I just don't see any other company out there really producing epic fantasy Christian games, and so that's kind of the deal. I'll show one other thing which I'm really excited about, and I know it looks backwards. Maybe 2 other things. So this is actually a demon card. Wanted to showcase the demons. So the way that this works is you've got your decision, what I call the decision tree or the skill tree. It's got 6 different dice on the card. I'm gonna roll the dice or just a single 6-sided dice to see what this demon does. If I roll a 1, the demon says move toward the nearest player and strike. This strike is an automatic critical hit. So this guy is, all of his abilities are just based on moving toward you and hitting really, really hard. So every single demon, there are currently 8 demons that I've completely designed, tested, and everything. They all do very, very different things. So all this guy wants to do is get in your face and attack. He's kind of a blade master. He's a fallen seraph. Down at the bottom, you'll see these health, or these stat circles is what I call them. You've got right here, you've got the range of this character. So he has 0 range, meaning he can only strike in characters in the same space as the demon himself. You've got this one is move, so he can move 4 spaces a turn. Whenever an ability says to move, he can move 4 spaces. The next one is damage. You'll see the stats actually start to differ right now. You'll see the green, the sort of the orange one, and then the red one. These 3 little sections of the wheel. The green represents easy mode. I actually call that normal. It's normal mode. It's the mode that you would play if you wanted to win. If people get offended that angels can lose to demons, or if it's your first time playing, you probably want to play on normal just to kind of get a handle on things. The next one is heroic, which will give you quite a challenge. It's going to be pretty difficult to win. You'll definitely feel accomplished if you win and all that. And then what I call nightmare is the mode that is eventually you'll work yourself up to nightmare, and it's going to be pretty tough. You should die a lot in nightmare. It's just more difficult to win in that mode for sure. I grew up in, I don't want to say grew up, but I played World of Warcraft a lot, and I really appreciated the hardest instances, the hardest dungeons, and the challenge that they gave me. So this game is possible to be very, very hard. And then, of course, the final stat is their health. So easy, this guy starts out at 9 health. Medium, or let's say heroic, the guy starts out at 11 health. And the nightmare, he has 13. The side health bars, actually, so this goes up to 13 health, and there are 4 of them. So you can actually track 4 separate demons from one single card. It's kind of nice. We just track with a little clip, up and down. No, I mean, if there's an earthquake, none of the components are going to fall. And, if your kid bumps the table or pulls the tablecloth, like mine do all the time, all of the stats are going to stay in the same place, which is kind of nice. Also, because I like really hard games, so this is an actual boss. The bosses have, you can see their health bars. You have a 10 through, you have a 10s column, and then, which is actually right over here, sorry. And then you have a 0 through 9 column, which you'll be tracking with both at the same time. So technically, demon bosses can have actually up to 99 health, or 109, I think, is the highest boss. This is actually the Prince of Persia. So he has, you can see, unlimited range, unlimited move, and then 3, 4 damage. He has 21 health for the very thematic biblical story of 21 days, and then it just goes up in multiples of 21 for normal, heroic, and nightmare. So in addition to that, there's actually an elite version. So you notice this guy's tough and all, but actually, in fact, I think you guys might have been looking at the elite version as I was talking. So there's a normal version. So you can see the normal health bar. I know you see this extra super fiery explosion elite version. It's there are actually 6 difficulty levels to the game. If you want to have a very difficult time, if you want to feel really well accomplished, try to solo this guy on the elite version. I would be very impressed if you could win hard mode. So the game does play 1 to 4 players, and so I guess that's kind of the rub. So I'm sure you guys probably have some questions. I don't know if there are going to be that many people that'll be watching this to ask a ton of questions, but I'd be happy to answer them. If you guys want to ask a question, go ahead and type it now. But I want to go over kind of how you can help, how you guys can help me to spread awareness, or do all the things that I would like you to do as my I guess the fans of the game, because it's really a grassroots movement. This is the type of game that Kickstarter was made for. It's a project I would like to see come to life. I would just like to see it hit the world, but also believe that it can be very successful commercially, and it's got a very rich backstory. A lot can be done with the lore, if you will. So whenever you guys can, just to share posts on the Deliverance Facebook page, anything that I post there, if you'd be willing to share it, that would be really meaningful. To comment and engage would be really cool too. And of course, inviting people to the Facebook group. You can actually invite your friends to the Facebook groups, and anybody that you think might have an interest in this game, especially if they're a board game player. Christian board game player is kind of the audience that I'm looking for. But even if they're non-Christian, the game can it definitely appeals to kind of both sides, just because of the type of game it is, the dungeon crawling, the difficult dungeon crawler. So, but just in general, tell people about the game, and if you just show the art on your phone to somebody, read, comment, and share the blogs on deliveраncethegame.com. That'll be more and more active down the road. But beyond that, I would say pray for us. I really covet your prayers. We have our little small team, and they have their own challenges. There are a lot of things that we've all dealt with, each of us individually. I've had my concept artist get robbed and his computer stolen, and the art for Deliverance was stolen. And I've had we do backup online, but we lost a couple of days of art. We've had I won't go into all of it, but a lot of challenges. And so your prayers are very important. I really appreciate them. So there will be other ways to help in the future, but I really appreciate all you guys do to engage with me. Tell me, just encourage me, encourage my team, and I really appreciate you guys just kind of for making it to the end of this video. If anybody has a question, I'm happy to answer now. Just go ahead and type it in, and I can answer. While you guys are doing that, I will kind of share what I think the coolest mechanic of the game is. So the mechanic, my wife is coming in now. So the mechanic is called the prayer mechanic. So it's one of the actions that you have eligible, or that you're eligible to use during your turn. It's so what you do is you gain a courage, which is this expendable resource that you can use for very powerful abilities, and you're able to then choose one or the other. So you draw. That's how you draw cards. So you draw a prayer card when you use prayer. Then you are able to choose one of two things. You can either protect a believer, so you can either pray for a believer on the board. It's a little token of a person that demons like to meddle with, or you can work to cast one of these cards down. Whether they are face down or face up, you can try to get rid of one of these things. So you roll a dice to see if if your prayer is successful. You have to hit a roll of 4 or above, but even if it's a 1, prayer is always answered. So that's why you always draw a card and you always gain courage. So if you end up not casting one of these down, you're still you still get something out of it. There are a lot of uses for prayer. It tends to. So one other thing about prayer is that these darkness cards, there are a lot. I mean, there are tons of them, but only 5 can be on the field at any given time. 6 if you're playing with 3 or 4 players. So if there are ever more than 5 of these on the field, whether they're face down or face up, you will actually have to. So if a 6th one, if I'm playing a 2-player game and a 6th one of these comes, it's going to be face up on the board. I'm going to actually discard this and remove one of these little these little people from the board. I'm actually going to remove them from the game. It's kind of like a, let's say this card that I discarded is called Suicidal Thoughts. If I have to discard this from the game because there are too many darkness cards in the field, that means that one of the believers on the board was not successful in their mission of helping somebody with these suicidal thoughts. So you discard a believer from the board. There are at least 2 believers, up to 4, depending on the game mode. But if ever there are 0 believers on the board, you lose the game. So you can either lose the game, of course, if you go to 0 health, or if all the believers on the board are lost. So kind of so there are a little bit few more rules related to believers and whatnot, but I'll try to kind of wrap it up. I know I've spent a long time. So let's see. Well, I guess that's pretty much it. I guess 1 or 2 questions. If you guys want to hear about the doctrine, if you will, I try really hard to be very consistent with the Bible and what the Bible says about things. There are a couple of important points that I would say make this game biblically accurate. So what I tell people is that it's a game that fits within the biblical narrative of things. So angels are good, demons are bad, and Satan is the worst. And you better believe that you're going to interact with Satan because he does prowl around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. We have records of him talking about a person saying, yes, I did study Job intently, and let me tell you about him. And if you think that Satan hasn't looked at you before, either you're wrong, or it's probably only a matter of time. Satan is very busy, and so are his demons. And so, anyway, just a fun, my fun way to kind of, I guess, teach people about the spiritual realm. So, anyway, that's going to be it for now. I am all tapped out. Thanks for watching this video.